That night, Mia went to the stream early. The stranger was not there. She waited long enough for anger to become worry, and worry to become fear she had no right to feel. At last he came out of the forest, pale, exhausted, one arm held close to his body. Mia moved toward him before she could stop herself. "You are hurt." "It does not matter. People only say that when it matters." A weak smile touched his mouth. "Then I must be a poor liar." She looked at the bandage, at his shoulder, at the way he stood as if every breath had a price. "Tomorrow is the final duel," she said. "I know. My father says tomorrow it will all be over." "Perhaps." "You always say that as if endings are never where people look for them." "They usually are not." The wind lifted his dark hair. He looked less like a stranger now and more like someone already vanishing. "Why do you come here?" Mia asked. He looked at her. "Because you do." The answer was so simple it left her defenseless. "I do not even know your name." "I know." "I do not know where you come from." "I know." "And I do not know why I keep waiting for you." That made him go still. Then he said, very softly, "Perhaps because some part of you already knows more than fear allows you to admit." Mia reached toward his face, then stopped before she touched him. He closed his eyes as if even that almost kindness was more than he could bear. "Tomorrow," he said, "when everyone else is certain, be careful." "Of what?" "Certainty." A faint, bitter smile touched his mouth. "It has killed kinder things than doubt." Before she could ask him anything else, he stepped back into the trees. By morning, the snow had hardened into a crust of ice. Mia stood by her window while servants dressed her in pale blue silk. She watched the arena below, the clean white ground, the gathered soldiers, the place where blood would fall. Her father came to her himself. He looked as if he had not slept. "Today it ends," he said. Mia did not turn from the window. "How can you be sure?" For the first time in days, there was almost relief in his voice. "The third night will not fail." She turned then. She understood before she wanted to, not from his words, from the way he said them. "What have you done?" "What had to be done." "What have you done?" "The blade has been treated." "With what?" "Something to slow him, weaken him." Her father's voice hardened before it could shake. "Enough for the night to finish it." The room seemed to tilt. "That is not a duel." "It is salvation." "It is murder." "He is a beast." Those words should have been enough. 2 days ago they would have been. Now they were not. The final duel began beneath a leaden sky. The third knight wore white armor, and his sword shone so cleanly that no one would think of poison on its edge. But Mia saw it. Not the poison itself, but the knowledge of it. The beast entered slowly. Yesterday's wounds still marked him. One shoulder was stiff, his steps were heavy. The knight attacked at once. The beast avoided the first blow, barely. The second cut across his side, a shallow wound, too shallow to matter. But the beast staggered as if the blade had carried fire into his blood. Mia's stomach turned. The poison was not meant to kill quickly. It was meant to make him slow, helpless, to make murder look like victory. The knight struck again. This time the beast caught the blow on one tusk and drove him back. For one clear instant he could have ended it. He could have crushed the man against the snow and saved himself. He did not. Even weakened, even betrayed, he refused to become the monster everyone had already named him. The knight raised his sword for the final blow. The beast fell to one knee. Then he looked at her. Winter eyes, eyes like the sky before snow. No, Mia did not think the word. She felt it in her blood, in her bones. The stranger, the beast, the same. She stood, Her father caught her wrist. "Mia, no!" But she was already running. Someone cried her name. The knight turned, sword still raised. Mia crossed the snow and stepped between him and the beast. "Stop!" The arena fell silent. The knight went pale. "Your Highness, move aside." She did not move. Behind her, the beast breathed heavily, so close she could feel his warmth through the cold air. Her father descended into the arena, his face white with anger and fear. "The duel is not finished." "It is finished. You do not know what you are doing." Maybe she did not know everything, but she knew enough. She knew the beast had refused to kill. She knew the stranger had come to her each night wearing the beast's wounds on his own body. She knew that if she let that sword fall, she would not merely save herself. She would betray the only person who had looked at her not as a prize, but as a person. She turned to the beast. He was on his knees, huge, wounded, silent. Everyone else saw horror. At last, Mia saw his silence for what it was. Not emptiness, a prison. "I will marry him," she said. The words fell over the arena heavier than snow. Her father whispered her name, not as a command this time, but as a plea. Mia did not look at him. If she did, she might break. "Not because the book demands it," she said. She held out her hand to the beast. Her fingers trembled, but her hand remained. "Because I choose." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the beast lowered his head and touched his brow to her fingers. A whisper rose from the crowd. Mia did not hear it. She felt only the warmth beneath the fur and the slight, impossible tremor of a creature who had not expected to be spared. They were married before sunset. There were no songs and no flowers. The priests spoke the vows in breaking voices. The nobles kept their distance. Her father looked as though he were watching his own defeat dressed in white. When the priest asked whether the groom accepted, the beast could not answer. He only bowed his head. Mia said yes for both of them. After that, the northern forest took them. The carriage had no driver, the horses were black, with silver eyes. The palace disappeared behind them, and with it every face that had known her before this night. The beast lay across from her, too large for the narrow space, his breathing uneven. Mia looked at his wounds, one where the stranger had held his arm, another where his voice had gone weak. Everything was arranging itself before her, and still her mind resisted. When they reached the northern castle, the sun was already setting. Dark towers rose against the snow. Iron gates opened without a hand. Windows stared down, narrow as wounds. Inside, fires burned everywhere, as if someone had tried to convince winter that life still remained here. The beast led her through a hall of black stone and old banners. His steps grew heavier with every turn. By the time they reached a room with a stone hearth, his breath had become ragged. Then he swayed. Mia rushed toward him before fear could stop her. "Don't fall," she whispered. A foolish plea, a human one. The beast looked at her, and in his eyes she saw him again. The sun vanished beyond the windows. First, his shadow changed, then his breathing. The fur withdrew like smoke. The enormous body folded inward. Bones shifted. Tusks disappeared. Where the beast had stood a moment before, a man collapsed onto the stone floor. Wounded, pale, familiar. Mia did not step back. The stranger from the northern wall lay before her, his winter-colored eyes fixed on hers. He opened his mouth. "Now you know." His voice was weak, but it was his. Mia knelt beside him. Fear, relief, anger, tenderness. They rose together until none could become words. At last, she said only, "You should have told me." Pain moved across his face. "I couldn't." And she knew. Perhaps not the rules, not the curse, not the price, but the truth inside those two words. He had not been silent because he did not trust her. He had been silent because something had held him by the throat. Mia touched his face. He closed his eyes as if mercy were harder to endure than his wounds. "What is your name?" she asked. This time he answered, "Robert." The name was quiet, real, given freely. Outside, night pressed against the windows of the northern castle. The forest beyond them was still dark. The curse was not gone. When morning came, Robert would wear the beast's skin again. There were still truths he could not speak, and shadows in this castle that had not yet shown their faces. But for the first time since the book had spoken her future, Mia did not feel like a girl being handed to fate. She had seen the beast in the arena. She had seen the man on the floor, and she had chosen both. Robert's hand moved weakly beneath hers. Not much, only enough to hold on. Mia stayed beside him until the fire burned low and the snow softened against the windows. The world beyond the castle was still cold. The forest was still watching. Nothing about the life ahead of her would be simple. But Robert was alive. He was real. And when he opened his winter-colored eyes, Mia no longer saw the prophecy that had taken her from home. She saw the person it had led her to. For tonight, that was enough.